With the release of games like Overwatch and more recently Quake Champions, it isn't hard to speculate about the future of first-person shooters, and more importantly, the future of Counter-Strike. Before we can see where the first-person shooter genre is going, we must look back and see where it has been. First-person shooters have come a long way in my life. With the release of Wolfenstein and Doom, there was eager anticipation of playing games with friends online. That brings us to Doom 2, which had a small multiplayer component, though I would hardly consider this a true multiplayer experience. No, instead I will bestow that honor upon Quake as the first true multiplayer first-person shooter. It was an all-out fast-paced shooter at that, which focused a lot on individual skills such as raw aim and controlling the map. If you could control the map well enough, you could stack enough armor and health that you were practically godlike and unstoppable. This set the tone for most multiplayer first-person shooters for a while. Even games like GoldenEye adopted this style of gameplay. That is, until Gooseman and Cliffy came up with a mod for Half-Life called Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike took the idea of GoldenEye's gameplay in a different direction. No longer were you in an all-out deathmatch. This was changed to a round-based system. Each round a new chance to start over from nothing with an inflating bank account at which you could purchase loadouts. With this system, you could no longer stack armors, but each round you were stuck with a set amount of health and armor depending on if you could afford the armor. While this system didn't work well when playing 1 versus 1, it did lend itself well to team-based play by allowing for coordinated buying. Because of this, it didn't take long for this game to get picked up competitively, and before everyone knew it, tournaments were being played all over the place. Meanwhile, there was another deathmatch-style game which kept pretty close mechanics to that of Quake, called Unreal Tournament. These two styles of first-person shooter with the round-based structure and the deathmatch structure were where gameplay stayed for several years. Games like DayOfDefeat and Team Fortress Classic borrowed the round-based style from Counter-Strike, whereas the deathmatch-style games stagnated with the release of each Unreal Tournament and Quake game. Meanwhile, Team Fortress gave each class a special ability, such as engineers being able to build turrets and spies being able to mask themselves as the other team. The next major overhaul in the FPS genre wouldn't be until Call of Duty. Not in the form of style of play, but in the form of auto-regeneration of health. This allowed players to play a game with similar mechanics to Counter-Strike while being able to maintain that unstoppable feeling that a good Quake player could have while controlling the armors and mega on a map. While it is often talked poorly about, Call of Duty was really the floor of evolution of the first-person genre for quite a while. With each release, players would get new tools to use at their disposal in the form of kill streaks, get 5 kills in a row, and get a Predator missile. Meanwhile, Team Fortress was also bought up by Valve. Valve immediately updated the game when making Team Fortress 2 so that each role was farther defined. This limited each individual player in what they could do, but farther enhanced team play. Feeling the game was getting a little bit stale, Valve decided what the game needed was alternate weapons and items you could choose. This allowed players to diversify the characters even farther, giving them more of an independent playstyle while still maintaining the team play. Meanwhile, during this time, Dota had started a new craze which had grown into an entirely new style of competitive game experience with the MOBA. There wouldn't be another big evolution in the first-person shooter until the release of Overwatch by Blizzard. It is no secret at this point in time that Overwatch was originally designed to be an MMORPG by the codename of Titan. Citing it as not fun, the developers converted the game into a first-person shooter in the image of Team Fortress 2. Wanting to farther separate it from Team Fortress, not only did Overwatch have abilities for each class, but also added ultimates, which had been seen in MOBAs for years prior. This game was released to huge success, capitalizing on the already built fan bases of Team Fortress 2 and MOBAs. Meanwhile, Bethesda, who is mainly known for building RPGs with large worlds, buys up ID Software, getting the rights to both Doom and Quake. Quake, which had once been the king of first-person shooters, was in a tough place and they needed to find a way to rejuvenate it. Seeing the success of Overwatch, the devs decided to follow the approach from Overwatch, changing Quake from a single character who could do everything into a class-based system with passive abilities and ultimates. So where does it go from here? This leads us to the future of Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike has been rebuilt several times with minimal changes. And while that is the case, it still continues to host a large fan base and huge competitive scene. Not much in the way of gameplay has really changed since its inception, with the exception of newly added weapons and grenades. Oh, and did I mention cases and skins? These turned out to be far more popular than I ever expected. This is a feature that can also be seen in games like Quake Champions and many others. So if the FPS genre continues to head down this path, where may Counter-Strike be in its next true installment? Well, for one, skins and the random loot boxes are not going anywhere. Now, while that impacts the game very little when it comes to actual gameplay, the next change looks to be an ultimate-based system. But how could this system work in a game like Counter-Strike? I've given this a bit of thought, but instead of a class-based system like Quake and Overwatch, Counter-Strike will still need to be more versatile. I can imagine ultimates and even possible skills being purchasable as biotic upgrades which you could use until you died or ran out of charges with it. So what kind of ultimate abilities could we expect to see if Counter-Strike were to follow this path? For the answer to that question, I say we look at skills that are most popular in games like Overwatch and Quake Champions, which could also make logical additions to Counter-Strike. Both Quake Champions and Overwatch have an ability to see through walls, Quake with the character Visor and Overwatch with Widowmaker. A sniper in CS could use this to wreak havoc with instant reactions in an AWP which can kill in only one bullet. Though seeing as this is a majorly used cheat in Counter-Strike, I feel this may be a bit overpowered here. Another skill I think would be utterly game-breaking is any form of auto-aim. Moving away from that, there is another ultimate ability that both Quake Champions and Overwatch share, which is the creation of shields or barriers. These can stop incoming attacks from doing damage or limit the amount of damage caused by them. Though this again has been addressed back in Counter-Strike 1.6 with the addition of the Riot Shield, which was quickly rejected in tournament play. The more I looked into it, the more possibilities I found, such as personal health injectors, which Quake and Overwatch both share. Continuing down the road, maybe an aura or radius-based health booster that could even heal an entire team. Then there are other possibilities like temporary invisibility or invincibility or even some sort of time manipulation. Imagine possibly having an ultimate which could decrease the amount of time it took to defuse by another full second. Just having that with a defuse kit and all of a sudden a situation which may have seemed hopeless would now be winnable. When you really start to think about it, there are a ton of possibilities. But is it the right direction for the future of Counter-Strike and first-person shooters in general? Anyways guys, let's make this a little bit of a discussion. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. And also, if you could add any ultimate ability to Counter-Strike, what would it be? This is my channel, Time is But a Window, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video.